Dateline Arlington, what comes after Monday and Tuesday? WTF? Over? In one of life's ironies, about which one notorious Northern Virginia politician often refers on social media, one of the parties to litigation before the Supreme Court he had identified early in his race for school board, emphasizing that it was a decision about integrity in the races, has become a potential new namesake for the school whose name is he assisting in the fight to retain. Two of the top contenders for the new name of Washington Lee High School are Harriet Tubman, and please don't snicker, Dick Loving, the Caucasian husband of Mildred Jeter, the American Indian, only 18 years old and pregnant when he married her, constituting essentially an disastrous attempt to conceal the strict liability crime of statutory rape. Weren't progressives against rape at the Supreme Court not long ago? Senator Cory Booker. We recall something about a pernicious patriarchy and its emphatic alliteration appeal. And, if you are just unable to resist the enticing appeal of watching a train wreck, what you surely missed at the final meeting where the renaming committee, currently, itself, the subject of litigation because of its discriminatory design, but about which litigation Community Relations Assistant Superintendent cared not to inform the committee, from which one member resigned before the vote stating specifically the lawless conduct of their procedures. Perhaps, Lying Linda, as some apparently call her, decided to exact revenge against the superintendent for not telling her that a lawsuit was pending before news reporters came to her asking questions about something she at least said that she knew nothing about. Or, perhaps Lying Linda just decided not to inform her committee, because, as she stated at the first meeting, the outside community only sends in a lot of junk. How is that for community relations and keeping all informed in an open process? Loyal alumni, separated by a makeshift police barricade and kept in check by an on-duty police officer, tried their best on this night to alert the doomed passengers on this academic Titanic voyage. Waving signs to signal distress, and even attempting to correct history that the designated history expert either did not know, or chose to withhold. Perhaps the 19 of 21 members of the committee who came out for the final vote continued to be entertained by the ever-engaging law student, Dana Raphael, who became so desperate at the previous meeting to get attention that she actually began to take off her clothes and play with her hair. Anything to support the changing of the name to Communist Party hero, Harriet Tubman. You know, the general, my comrade, right? Most many years ago recall when Harriet Tubman was just the conductor of the Underground Railroad, but perhaps that sounds way too proletariat for the communists who wish to call her the general, for assisting to raise money to invade an Union Army arsenal, steal weapons, and engage in full-scale resurrection against these United States, the exact reason why the school board wished to remove the name of a real soldier who attained the rank of general after over 30 years of military service. Perhaps the difference is that she only helped to fund the overthrow of the United States government and apparently called in sick on Revolution Day. Perhaps she was not generally reliable, right? Ouch. Who got that? While eating a tasty burger, and drinking down some tasty beverage, none of which she even thought to share with her fellow worker class, she told delightful stories of the shawl displayed in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History, not far from the Bible that was donated to that museum by the family that had him captured, hung him, removed his skin and cut of his head. To quote Dana, "I think that's real cool." By the way, if you have any more heirloom heads and Bibles, the Smithsonian is currently permitting African Americans to bring in all of their historical items to be appraised. Certainly, they would not undervalue the merchandise in hopes of enticing these persons to hand over more stuff to add to over 300,000 unique pieces of history, including the coffin in which the young Emmett Till was buried, and exhumed from to uncover more evidence about which racist actually killed him. It now has a beautiful and sacred display, they say, on the request of the family, who, for some reason, before it was discovered by the Smithsonian, they had left to rot in a shed in the cemetery. But, perhaps we learn better to prepare for the future by the bitter lessons of history. No matter how much it may be to hear that truth. So, for the sake of history, let's go back and witness that final moment, as after 3 elimination rounds, in which the absentee voters had diligently early voted, permitting Lying Linda and the moderating consultant, who apparently is a freelancer not associated with any real company, but definitely worth at least $5,000 to do this job, to place their votes for them. Wait. If it is an elimination round, how in the world was anyone who was absent be able to see into the future to place a vote for what was left as a choice? Perhaps they took the deliberate time and effort to create decision tree formatted ballots to permit lying Linda to expeditiously calculate how they would have voted based upon what remained. Lying Linda certainly would not lie or try to cheat this important vote, probably her last renaming committee, because for some reason, after decades of service she has voluntarily chosen to say vamoose. But, let's look at this history, as it occurred. Go Washington Tubman football. Here come the Wash Tubs, right? Well, that is only the second choice, because, apparently the new community value at Old Washington Lee is statutory rape and false accusations, like the Pocahontas exception Mildred Jeter, sadly was, giving rise to that landmark Supreme Court case. Still, certainly, Nicky Roy, who expressed his great regrets about no longer being able to display his swastika at the very first school board meeting, and his sadness that Lady Liberty was not a real woman, but only a fiction, must be literally up in arms about the decision to replace Bob Lee with Dick Loving, a white man, like Abe Lincoln, who are in the closet swastika of peace rejected specifically because of his race. But wait, alas, and alack, the victor is not, for the moment, Harriet Tubman, the symbol of the Communist Party of America, nor the whitewashed history of a statutory rapist Dick Loving, but sweet liberty, and justice for all, apparently, two Virginia high schools with namesakes who were leaders in the Confederate Army, forgiven by a great emancipator, with malice towards none, and charity to all, are replaced by words that reflect our community values, at least cosmetically, submerging them. Divisiveness and loss of trust that robbed both communities of names with which no student nor the majority of alumni, nor even African American found objectionable. Sweet words of liberty and justice to throw over school board decisions that spawned multiple litigations, because of ignored procedures, and, apparently as we are discovering broken laws, which may well find the woman who entertained Arlington Public School Board members with woeful tears about past usurpations against herself, as she cried into a t-shirt, which may well be good preparation for the performance of her life, when, finally true justice is served, charging her with embezzlement. for using public funds to defend her political campaign, punishable by up to 20 years in prison, on top of the federal Class E felonies anonymously transmitted electronic communications to harass in personal cyberbullying of her opponent, racking up at least 200 years of federal prison time for the anonymous perpetrator, in whose unlawful conduct Monique O'Grady acquiesced as an accessory, entitled to half the sentence of the actual perpetrator. There may be justice in Fairfax County, but Ms. O'Grady may not know liberty for a very long time, but at least her fellow prisoners in county will have a talented entertainer to make their years in confinement more pleasant. Nothing like that award-winning television news Smile, and 1, and 2, and Red Light. In any event, perhaps this will have a picture-perfect piece de resistance, as at the school board meeting, the principal of Washington Lee High School will escort the young interracial current student who, even the historical expert admitted tells the story far better than he possibly could, to be the sacrificial lamb to propose that all dick-loving supporters accept the statutory rape of a young girl, and the false accusations by a community who called her the N-word to break up the union. Who is thinking about that scene with Jessica Lange in the remake of King Kong, right? Still, as Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. stated, injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. And, as Walter Cronkite used to say, and that's the way it was. Good night. And good evening. But remember yet that coffee is for closers. A-I-D-A. Attention. Interest. Decision. Action. A. Do I have your attention? I know that you are interested. D. Have you made your decision for Christ? A. Now is the time for action. But you have the right to remain silent. Stay tuned for updates as they develop. We get the news as it happens and we get it to you before anyone else. Back to you, in the studio, Mo. Rape. Rape. Statutory rape. Go wash tubs. Rape. 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 WTF over. WTF over. WTF over. WTF over. WTF over. WTF over. WTF over.
Washington Tubman. Washington Tubman.
WTF over.
Washington Tubman.
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.
Washington Tubman. Thank you.
WTF over.